The sterile hum of the xenobiology lab echoed down the academy's hollow corridors. Alien students, members of species from the gentler corners of the galaxy, sat rigidly in their seats, their bodies tense, eyes wide with apprehension. Their curiosity about the class today was tinged with a palpable unease. Each student's eyes flickered nervously over the array of tools displayed in front of them: scalpels, syringes, glass slides, and strange containers emblazoned with the universal symbol for biohazard. Most of these species had left behind the need for such rudimentary tools, relegating them to the archives of their medical histories. Yet here they were, primed for use. The chatter among the students grew louder as they whispered telepathically or in hushed tones. What kind of experiment could this possibly be? Professor Zalor, a tall, elegant creature with a shimmering exoskeleton, cleared his throat, his multiple eyes scanning the anxious faces in the room. He was a seasoned scholar in xenobiology, yet today he seemed uncharacteristically uneasy, his many limbs tapping rhythmically against the metallic lectern. Finally he spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "Class," he began, his deep, resonant tones capturing everyone's attention. "Today, we are going to witness something quite unusual. This lesson is part of our exploration into Deathworlder biology." The class fell silent, the weight of the term Deathworlder sending shivers through the air. Most of the galaxy had heard tales of Deathworlders, particularly the most infamous of them all, humans from the hostile, ever-dangerous planet called Earth. But few had ever met one, let alone been instructed by one. Stories of their resilience and survival skills bordered on myth. Professor Zalor continued, "Today, a volunteer from Earth, a human, will demonstrate some basic biological processes for us." A tremor of disbelief rippled through the room. The students glanced at one another, their expressions shifting from fear to intense curiosity. One of the braver students, a gelatinous being named Myrtil, raised a quivering pseudopod. "Excuse me, Professor," it asked, its voice telepathically transmitted, "but what exactly will this experiment entail?" Zalor hesitated. "You will see soon enough. Please keep an open mind." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and every eye turned toward it, tension palpable in the air. A figure strode in, tall and imposing, with the deliberate confidence that only came from being a member of one of the galaxy's most feared species. Dr. Eli Ward, the human xenobiologist, scanned the room with piercing hazel eyes that gleamed with a mixture of warmth and intensity. He wore the standard Academy lab coat, though it barely contained his muscular frame. With a friendly, almost boyish smile, he addressed the students, seemingly oblivious to their palpable fear. "Good day, everyone," he greeted them with a calm, affable tone. "I'm here to give you a closer look at human biology. We're going to keep it pretty simple today, just a standard blood sample analysis." The alien students stared back, horrified, barely able to process his words. Did he say he was going to take his own blood? On their planets, blood loss was typically fatal. Only creatures from Deathworlds were rumored to survive such an ordeal. The students began whispering again, this time louder, filling the room with nervous energy. Ward raised an eyebrow, seemingly amused. "I know it sounds intense, but it's just a routine procedure for humans." His voice was calm, even reassuring, but the students weren't convinced. He lifted a syringe and vial from his case, holding it up for everyone to see. "I'll just take a small sample of blood from my arm. Nothing more." One of the students, a feathery creature from the tranquil marsh planet Xanor, squawked in dismay. "Blood is not supposed to leave the body. Won't you suffer?" Ward chuckled, seemingly unfazed. "For most species, yes, but humans are built a little differently." He pressed the syringe to his arm, puncturing the skin without a second thought. Blood pooled into the vial, and he withdrew the needle, unfazed by the trickle of crimson on his skin. The aliens gasped, many recoiling. To them, it looked as though he had just inflicted a fatal wound on himself with nothing but a laugh to show for it. Myrtil, who had gone pale, an impressive feat for a gelatinous being, looked at him with wide eyes. You're not harmed?" Ward smiled, dabbing the puncture mark with a piece of gauze. "Humans are built for survival," he explained, his tone calm but enthusiastic. "In fact, this small wound will close up within minutes, Flins. That's one of the perks of our unique immune system." The class murmured in awe, their initial horror giving way to fascination. One brave student, Izark, a sleek reptilian from the desert world Exra, raised his clawed hand. I have heard stories, he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Stories of humans surviving injuries and illnesses that would destroy other beings. Ward looked at Izark, his hazel eyes bright with the pride only a true Deathworlder could have. That's true. Our immune systems are adaptive, meaning they can learn from past infections and evolve to handle new ones. Humans have been battling deadly pathogens for millions of years, so our bodies have developed powerful ways to survive. He set the blood vial under a microscope, projecting the image onto a large screen. These are our white blood cells, he explained. They're our body's soldiers, fighting off invaders like bacteria and viruses. Watch closely. The students leaned in, captivated, as they saw the cells moving purposefully on the screen. They watched as a macrophage, a large, predatory white blood cell, tracked down a foreign bacterium and engulfed it in a swift, deadly movement. The aliens gasped, their expressions a mixture of awe and terror. These are the cells that keep us alive, Ward continued, his voice a blend of pride and passion. They don't just attack threats, they adapt to them. This adaptability allows us to heal from wounds and infections that would be fatal to most species. Just then, a shrill alarm echoed through the lab, jarring everyone out of their fascination. Ward's face shifted from calm to serious in an instant. His hand moved to his communicator, tapping it with a tense urgency. Yes? He barked into the device. A frantic voice crackled back. Dr. Ward, we have an emergency in the West Wing, a containment breach. A pathogen from Earth's ancient archive it's been accidentally released. Ward's face paled, his jaw clenching. Which pathogen? He asked, his voice steely and low. There was a pause, and then the voice responded, trembling. It's the Necrovirus, Doctor. The room went silent, the word hanging in the air like a death sentence. Ward's eyes flashed with fear for the first time, a reaction that did not go unnoticed by the alien students. They had seen him withstand pain, shed blood without flinching, but now even he looked genuinely afraid. One of the students, a trembling, translucent being from the serene water world of Gilon, raised a feeble limb. What? What is the Necrovirus? Ward took a deep, steadying breath. It's an ancient virus from Earth, he began, his voice grave. Long extinct, thankfully, but once it was one of the most deadly pathogens we'd ever encountered. It spreads quickly and aggressively, targeting multiple cell types and causing tissue necrosis, death of the cells. Once it's inside a host, it's almost impossible to contain. A wave of panic swept over the students, and many began to quiver, their bodies instinctively backing away from each other. Ward raised his hands to calm them. Everyone, listen. This lab is already in lockdown, so the virus can't spread outside. But it's possible some of us may already have been exposed. This only served to heighten the tension. Vixik, a small insectoid being, clutched its many limbs to its chest. Then, are we doomed? Not if I can help it, Ward replied, his voice steady but laced with urgency. He began typing rapidly into a console, his fingers moving in a blur. I have an idea, but it's risky. I'll need to use my own immune system to create an antibody serum. That means I'll need to expose myself to the virus directly. A collective gasp filled the room. Myrtle spoke up, his voice trembling. You're going to infect yourself with this virus? Ward nodded grimly. It's the fastest way. If I can produce antibodies quickly enough, I might be able to stop it before it spreads to any of you. He began preparing a vial, his hands steady, but his expression set with fierce determination. One of the students, Izark, stammered in disbelief. But you could die. Ward paused, giving Izark a calm but intense look. I know, but you're my responsibility, and humans, we don't abandon others. Without another word, he injected himself with the Necrovirus sample. As the needle broke his skin, the room fell into an oppressive silence, every student too horrified to move. Ward's face twisted briefly with pain, but he steadied himself, his eyes closing as he fought against the onset of the virus. Within minutes, he began to sweat, his breathing growing labored as the virus attacked his cells. Yet his immune system fought back with a ferocity that was almost visible to the watching students. They could see the strain on his face, the battle raging within his own body. Through gritted teeth, Ward muttered, "Come on, antibodies, do your job." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Ward's face grew pale, his muscles tense as his body waged war against the virus. The alien students huddled together, too stunned to speak. For the first time, they were witnessing the true extent of human resilience, the terrifying and awe-inspiring battle that took place on a microscopic level. Finally, Ward let out a shuddering breath, his face glistening with sweat. He held up a small vial, triumphantly filled with the serum he'd managed to create. His voice, though weak, was filled with satisfaction. There. This should stop the virus. He staggered to Vixik, the most visibly affected of the students, and administered the serum, watching closely as the student's body began to stabilize. One by one, he moved to each student, giving them the antibody serum and ensuring the virus had no chance to spread further. The room was silent as the students watched Ward, their fear transformed into a profound respect. This human had willingly risked his life for them, had subjected himself to a deadly virus without hesitation. When Ward had finished, he slumped into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. He looked over at the students, his voice barely a whisper. And that, everyone, is what it means to be a Deathworlder. It's not just about survival, it's about protecting those around us, no matter the cost. The students looked at him in silent awe. In that moment, they understood why humans were legends in the galaxy, not just for their resilience, but for their courage, their unbreakable spirit, and their unwavering loyalty. For the rest of their lives, these students would remember the day they met Dr. Eli Ward, the Deathworlder who fought the Necrovirus and won.